Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about some of the big hints that Blizzard may be doing a fresh classic server soon, but more importantly, how could they make it better? So right now there is actually a public test realm for the classic era servers. That's what it's called on the Battle.net app anyway. And what's interesting is it's kind of replicating what Phase 1 Classic World of Warcraft would be, because there's certain raids that you simply cannot access on the PTR. And obviously a while back there was that survey released, again putting the vibe out about fresh classic servers, but also changes to classic WoW servers. And that's mainly what I want to talk about today, because I thoroughly do believe that, in my humble opinion, that retail World of Warcraft is just beyond hope. I think too many things have just been added to retail World of Warcraft, too many features, too many gimmicky things, that it's just not ever going to be good again. But maybe there's a chance that classic WoW, with some changes, could be good again. So really I want to list all the changes that I would personally make to classic WoW. I think I have a total here of 11 different big changes, and the first big one is they need to find some way to basically enforce faction balancing on servers to prevent dead servers from happening and all the other issues that come along with imbalanced servers. There's so many ways that they could do this with a little bit of initiative, in my opinion. Like, they could just stop new accounts from making characters on a particular faction that is too overpopulated on a server. You know, when it's starting to topple off badly. They could do server merges. You know, they could do anything really. What they did do in the original Classic WoW is offer free transfers, but it obviously just made it 10 times worse. It's why I've honestly thought that servers by design for an MMO are pretty bad, and I can understand why certain other MMOs have this thing called a mass server where everyone is just on the same server. But obviously the disadvantage of like mass servers is they don't really have that close-knit community feeling. I think another big change that would probably just fix the faction balance issues anyway is to sort out the racials. I don't think they should remove racials, because racials are obviously quite a flavourful thing that, you know, every RPG game should have, in my opinion. But they could at least balance them in some kind of way, or they could make them purely cosmetic to the point where they do not affect gameplay, or they could just get rid of the junk racials, let's be honest, that are in the game right now, and then just revamp them to the point where it's basically mirrored. For instance, orcs have their Blood Fury ability that increases their melee attack power. Maybe the humans could have something like Vitality of the Alliance, or probably something a little less corny, some kind of spell that would basically just have the same effect, but have a different name, have a different spell icon, and a different in-game like visual effect. And speaking of buffs, world buffs can jog on, as far as I'm concerned. I definitely don't think world buffs should be allowed to be in raids. I think they should automatically just be removed the second you jump into a raid. I think the main problem with world buffs is they do trivialise the content. They do make the content much easier by making each and every character just a little bit too powerful. It also causes a lot of stress and awkwardness and drama. Say for instance, if someone causes a wipe and everyone gets their world buffs removed, or someone causes just someone, like one other person, to die, it can cause a lot of beef and drama. And then when when everything's in the open world, it can be even more chaotic. I think overall they're just like a little bit crap. I have to admit, it's kind of nice to like be solo leveling with some world buffs. Like, I don't think they should be totally removed from the game, but like, I just don't think they should be allowed to be in raids. And let's stay on the topic of buffs, but we'll talk about debuffs now, because I definitely think the debuff limit should just be totally removed in Classic WoW raiding, because what that allows to happen is more class viability from the, you know, lesser played specs, which allows people to get more fun and variety out of their class. Overall, I think the game would just simply be more interesting if there were more specs for you to mess around with. I think that would bring a lot of people back to playing Classic WoW, because they'll be able to play a class that they'd never played before, because in the original Classic they wouldn't be able to effectively play that class in a raiding environment, mainly because everyone would just think, well, your class isn't strong, your spec isn't strong, so you can't come to the raid. And I think it overall would just be more interesting, you know, having enhancement shamans and retribution paladins able to compete on the DPS meters with the rogues and warriors, rather than just looking at the DPS meter and seeing a big brown blob, because the only people you can see on the DPS meters are warriors. Now, next thing I want to talk about is probably the one that is closest to my heart, but I save it for the middle of the video because I know a lot of people really don't care about this, but I really would like old school Alterac Valley in Fresh Classic WoW, because it is just awesome. Like, you could spend an entire day in old Alterac Valley just constantly trying to push the enemy team, and there's so many different objectives you could do, so many little like mini bosses that you could kill, and you really just felt you actually were in a realistic war, because these battlegrounds would like still be going on after you've logged out and logged back into the game. You know, some of my fondest memories from playing on the old vanilla private servers are just me sitting in old Alterac Valley on my hunter, sniping everyone. It was just so much fun. I think another thing that they should do is definitely remove the cost to respec your class. One of the very irritating things for me personally is how I couldn't respec my rogue from, you know, a PvE to PvP spec without having to farm gold for about a couple of hours every time I wanted to do that. And this meant I only really played Classic WoW, you know, later on in its lifetime very seasonally, because I didn't have anything to do other than raid. Because I wanted to do PvP, I wanted to give it a spin, because obviously Rogue is very fun to play in PvP, but I just didn't physically have the time to farm the gold to keep respecing. I only had enough time to farm gold for my consumables to jump into a raid. I think I definitely would have doubled my playtime if I was able to keep respecing for every time I wanted to jump into a raid, because I do genuinely really love playing a rogue in PvP. But I didn't really get to fully experience that, because yeah, I always had to stay in, you know, my combat PvE spec that wasn't very good for PvP. I think we also need to make the raids slightly more difficult, maybe even add mechanics just to throw us off guard a little bit, just to make things a little bit fresh and interesting, or they at least need to do progressive itemization, because we definitely were too strong and too overpowered when we were running into raids in Classic WoW because of world buffs, because of 1.12 talent, and because of 1.12 itemization. So to counteract, if they don't want to put, you know, progressive talents, progressive itemization, and everything like that, and if we want to keep world buffs in the game, then we should definitely make the raids more difficult to counteract everything that makes us more powerful. Don't think it would hurt anyone to revamp the PvP system either, because let's be honest, it is probably one of the biggest time sinks in the history of MMOs. I mean, it's up there with becoming a Jedi in Star Wars Galaxies, the amount of time you have to spend sat at a computer to achieve a certain goal. What they could do is simply implement some rated battlegrounds instead. If there were rated battlegrounds, then you would obviously be able to segregate the hardcore PvPers and the people who just want to chill out on a battleground, so that those people who just, you know, want to chill out in battlegrounds don't have a very negative experience because they're against, you know, 20 other Horde players or Alliance players and just get totally owned to the point where it's just boring to even queue for a basic battleground. And nobody wants to play a video game for 12 hours a day for, you know, a few months to get the max rank and to get over, you know, rank 14 gear and everything like that. It should be based on skill, you know, win rate, your skill as a player, how many deaths you get compared to how many kills you get, rather than just how much time you have on your hands. I think they should also nerf all the possible mage boosting techniques and other exploits in the game, so that there's basically non-existent power leveling, paid services or anything like that that the community can take advantage of. I mean, what they could very simply do is disallow a high level player to go into a instance group with a low level player. There you go, Bob's your uncle, no one can boost anyone. I think mage boosting just kind of chipped a little bit of the Classic WoW heart away and inflated many different servers' economies, and was overall a very negative thing. I also think they should add better systems in place to catch bots. Say for instance, you are doing something very mundane in the game, very repetitive, like, you know, farming a particular resource. I think the game should automatically detect that you're doing something slightly suspicious to detect bots, and then give them some kind of captcha to fill out. You know, when writing appears on the screen that you actually have to type out, you know, any kind of picture like that. So that obviously if a bot was farming a location over and over again like that, they wouldn't be able to type in that captcha, and then it would get kicked from the game and then put under investigation. Kind of like an anti-AFK thing, but an anti-bot thing. And obviously this shouldn't be, you know, available in raids or anything like that. If you're just chilling doing a raid or chilling in Stormwind or something like that, then it shouldn't be implemented. But if you are out in the world gathering resources, then like every hour or half an hour or so, I think there should be some kind of capture system that, you know, can detect bots. I remember back in the day I was playing this kind of like really crappy Pokemon MMO that had like a system like that in place. I was farming like something over and over again, and they made me like verify that I'm not a bot. If some kind of community made Pokemon MMO can do it, then I'm pretty sure Blizzard can do something similar to, you know, get the bot situation sorted out. I think another great thing would be if they removed spell batching entirely, because let's be honest, it caused more headache than, you know, happy moments in PvP. And if we're going to be honest, it is a borderline exploit if you know what you're doing. I just really think it didn't need to be in the game at all. And the last thing I want to talk about is new content. Like, new content definitely would be a welcome change, or they release content a little bit faster, because what inevitably happens is you do get a little bit of content drought when you are playing Classic WoW, because it takes so long for the new raids to be released. But if they added like content in between the phase, obviously we had 6 phases in Classic WoW, if they added like mini phases in between each phase that added new content, like added a new dungeon, added a new 20-man raid, like the Scarlet Crusade raid or something like that, in between content droughts, that would be quite a welcome change. Or they simply just release content a little bit faster so we don't get bored of it too quickly, release it faster, but then release more content after all of the Classic WoW content from the original vanilla has been released. There's many different directions that they can take that down. Like there's a battle for Ajara, the battleground that wasn't actually added into the original vanilla that was going to be. There's the Dragon Isles, there's, you know, the Karazhan raid that was going to be added, there was going to be some Caverns of Time shenanigans and everything like that. And obviously there was also the entire Emerald Dream Zone, so not even just new raids, but perhaps even new zones for us to go to, and, you know, things like that. But who knows what is going to happen, guys, in the future, if whether we are going to get fresh Classic WoW, whether it is going to have big changes or not. Tell me what the kind of changes you would like to see in fresh Classic WoW servers in the comment section below. My name is MetaGoblin. To my next video. Ciao.